So every weekend, I mean, you see thousands of perfectly capable people walking into hardware stores, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they have this vision of a handcrafted, beautiful backyard shed. They're picturing like the ultimate DIY dream.
The Weekend Warrior special,
Exactly. Maybe it's a desperately needed storage space so you can, actually fit a car in your garage again.
which is rare these days.
Right. Or it's a quiet, sunlit home office away from the noise of the house, and you can completely see the appeal.
Oh, for sure.
You build it with your own two hands, you save a massive stack of cash compared to those overpriced pre-built structures, and you get that deep satisfaction of physical creation.
But then you jump forward 2 months.
Yeah.
And for an alarming number of these ambitious folks, that pristine vision has mutated into, well, a rotting, expensive pile of lumber sitting in the mud.
Just covered by a flapping blue tarp.
Exactly. The landscape of suburban backyards is absolutely littered with these stalled monuments to good intentions.
It really is. So for today's deep dive, we are pulling apart a very specific guide called Mastering the DIY Shed, The Power of Precise Planning.
And really looking at the autopsy of these failed projects today.
Right, because we want to move past the superficial idea of just like trying harder, We need to unpack the actual mechanics of structural failure.
Like, why do people with perfectly fine woodworking skills end up abandoning these builds?
Exactly. And we're going to look at how utilizing highly detailed building plans acts as the ultimate preventative measure. It's about taking you from a state of constant, stressful improvisation to executing a calm, predictable sequence.
But we should probably lay down a ground rule before we even get into the weeds here.
Oh, definitely. The ground rule is this. We are not just going to offer you some vague advice about measuring twice and cutting once.
Right. Nobody needs to hear that again.
No, we are walking step by step through the hidden traps of construction.
We're looking at the structural, the financial, and honestly, the psychological pitfalls that derail these projects.
And how front-loading your decisions outsmarts every single one of those traps before you purchase, like a single piece of wood.
Because before we can build something that stands for decades, we have to look at how things fall apart.
Which is fascinating in the source material.
It really is. The text outlines this concept regarding the anatomy of a construction disaster. It's the reality that construction errors are almost never isolated events.
They're systemic.
Completely systemic. In construction, every single layer relies entirely on the mathematical integrity of the layer beneath it.
So it's a domino effect.
Exactly.
If the first domino is leaning even a fraction of a degree, everything that follows is going to amplify that error.
Let's actually trace that exact chain reaction the text describes, starting from the ground up.
Okay, let's do it.
So say you're eager to get the project moving on a Saturday morning. You lay the foundation of the floor joists, but, you rush the measuring process.
Because you just want to get to the fun part.
Right.
Yeah.
And your floor ends up being out of square by just half an inch.
Which, to the naked eye on day one, a half-inch variance on a 10-foot floor doesn't seem like a critical failure.
Not at all. You might even think you can just fudge it later.
Right.
But because that floor is essentially a trapezoid now instead of a true rectangle, it forces the walls to be misaligned the literal moment you stand them up.
Because a perfectly square wall sitting on an unsquare floor is either going to hang off the edge or it's going to have to lean inward to compensate.
Exactly. And a wall that leans by half an inch at the bottom is going to lean by a much larger margin at the top.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which brings us to the top plate. And for anyone unfamiliar, the top plate is that crucial horizontal beam that caps your vertical wall studs.
Right. It's the anchor point where the entire weight of your roof meets your walls.
Spot on. But because your walls are leaning, those top plates are now warped and uneven.
Which means when you go to install your roof trusses, those triangular wooden frames that actually give the roof its shape, they aren't going to sit flush.
They won't sit flush at all. Meaning the weight of the roof is no longer pushing straight down into the foundation, as it was engineered to do.
So the load is shifting?
Yeah. The structural load is now pushing outward against the walls. The geometry has fundamentally failed.
That's terrifying.
And suddenly, because the frame is twisted under this uneven pressure, the rectangular rough openings you left for your doors and windows, well, they're parallelograms now.
So your doors jam.
They won't close. You start getting these microscopic gaps in your siding.
And those gaps turn into leaking joints the very first time a heavy rain hits.
Exactly.
It's remarkably similar to a tiny lie at the very beginning of a relationship.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. It feels incredibly insignificant in the moment, just this slight distortion of reality.
Mhm.
But everything you build on top of that foundational lie is skewed.
Yeah.
By year 3, the relationship just collapses under the weight of having to constantly compensate for that original misalignment.
And the geometry of building materials is just as unforgiving as that psychology. I mean, a shed that was supposed to withstand heavy storms and last 20 years might start rotting or sagging or developing severe mold in just 2.
Mm. So when people find themselves in this situation, standing in a puddle inside a leaking shed they spent 3 weeks building in it, I gotta ask, is this ultimately a lack of physical skill? Or are we just looking at a profound lack of foresight?
Well, the data in the source material points resoundingly to foresight.
Really? Not skill.
No, it's rarely a lack of physical capability. I mean, driving a nail, operating a circular saw, using a drill, these are physical mechanics most people can master with a few hours of practice.
That makes sense.
The failure point happens when builders are forced to make structural decisions on the fly.
Uh,
When you're improvising the dimensions of your walls because your floor didn't turn out right, you're basically playing a guessing game with physics.
and physics usually wins.
Every time. The golden rule of construction is that fixing compounding issues at step 5 is exponentially harder and vastly more expensive than preventing them at step 1.
Speaking of expensive, that physical failure doesn't just cost you your weekend. It is a direct siphon on your bank account.
Oh, a massive one.
Because fixing a twisted frame means throwing away materials you have already bought and cut. So let's look at the financial black hole of, winging it.
Let's do it.
Because the prevailing myth is that building a shed just involves tossing some 2x4s in the back of a pickup truck and following a 10-minute internet tutorial.
Which is wild, because that highly romanticized view completely ignores the harsh realities of the commodities market.
Lumber is not cheap.
No, lumber prices fluctuate wildly, and raw building materials are a major investment. Framing a shed without a precise, calculated cut list is it's like trying to bake a complex cake by just throwing handfuls of flour and eggs into a bowl until it looks right.
And the chemistry fails, and you throw the whole batch in the trash.
Exactly. In construction, if you misread a tape measure or guess the angle of a roof pitch, you've just ruined an $80 sheet of exterior plywood.
And you cannot uncut wood.
You really can't.
So you end up essentially paying for the same shed twice, just in discarded mistakes. But the text highlights something even more insidious than ruining plywood.
The hidden costs.
Yeah, the real budget killers are the elements of a build that don't immediately jump to mind when you picture a wooden structure. I mean, it is never just the lumber.
Never. The hidden materials list is extensive, and it's often where first-time builders blow their budget entirely.
So what are we talking about here?
Well, before you even touch wood, you have to consider the foundation.
Right.
Depending on where you live, you might need to pour concrete footings. You have to dig below the frost line, the depth at which groundwater and soil freezes.
So that expanding ice doesn't heave your shed upward and crack the entire structure in the winter.
Exactly. And concrete, rebar, the forms to hold them, that's all expensive.
Then you have the sheer volume of fasteners. You aren't just buying a single box of nails.
It's not even close.
You need galvanized structural screws that won't rust away in the humidity. You need hurricane ties to keep the roof attached during high winds. Heavy-duty steel hinges that can support a solid wood door without sagging over time.
And you also have to factor in the roofing materials. Asphalt shingles, roofing felt, drip edges, and the specialized nails required for installation. It adds up incredibly fast.
Yeah.
We haven't even touched on weatherproofing.
Oh, man.
You need exterior-grade paint or wood stain, caulk for every single joint, vapor barriers.
I'm glad you brought up weatherproofing, actually, because the one that always catches people off guard is ventilation.
Yes.
People assume a shed is just a sealed wooden box to keep the rain out. But if you don't install soffit vents or ridge vents to allow airflow, that sealed box basically becomes a greenhouse.
A very destructive greenhouse.
Right. The temperature fluctuates, condensation builds up on the inside, and your entire collection of power tools rusts, while the shed itself rots from the inside out due to toxic mold.
It's a nightmare. And without a comprehensive, highly detailed materials list generated from a precise blueprint before you start, estimating the true financial scope of the project is just a fiction.
You are literally just guessing.
And when you guess your materials, you inevitably fall victim to one of the most draining experiences in DIY culture.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. The dreaded DIY walk of shame.
It's so real.
Anyone who has ever attempted a weekend project knows exactly what this is. It's 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. You're covered in sawdust, you're sweating, you are finally in a rhythm, and you realize you bought the wrong gauge of screws for the floor joists.
Or you're exactly 3 roofing shingles short.
Yes, your momentum completely dies. You have to pack up your tools, get in the car in your dirty work clothes, and make your third demoralizing trip to the hardware store that day.
It's the worst.
You wander the aisles, the cashier recognizes you, and you realize you spent more time driving back and forth than actually building.
But the walk of shame is more than just a running joke. It's a mechanical breakdown of the project's timeline.
That's a good point.
Having a comprehensive, pre-calculated shopping list
Yeah.
completely eliminates this friction. You buy every single nail, board, and vent once, you get it delivered or bring it home, and you stay on the job site.
And that disruption of momentum leads us directly into what the source text identifies as the ultimate project killer.
Yeah, this is the big one.
It's not running out of cash, and it's not physical fatigue. It is severe mental overwhelm.
Absolutely.
The cognitive load of trying to build a structure without a rigid plan is just staggering.
We could actually look at this through the lens of cognitive load theory.
Okay, let's hear it.
The human brain can only hold so many active variables at one time, right? When you're building without a blueprint, you're asking your brain to simultaneously handle physical safety, spatial geometry, mathematical conversions, and project management.
It's like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle. You're measuring a board while trying to remember the complex angle you need to cut it at, while worrying about whether the wall is square, while trying to figure out how the door frame is going to fit into the hole you're currently creating.
It is just too much processing power required all at once.
Yeah.
And this creates a fascinating psychological phenomenon. When builders stall out, when a project sits untouched for 3 months, it is rarely due to a lack of motivation.
And what is it?
They stall because of uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
Yeah. They reach a point in the build where they're holding a hammer, looking at the frame, and they suddenly realize they don't know if the vapor barrier goes on before or after the exterior siding.
Oh, I've been there.
Or they don't know exactly how the complex angles of the roof framing are supposed to lock together.
And when you hit that wall of uncertainty, what do? You put the hammer down,
Exactly.
you pull out your smartphone,
Yeah.
and you start desperately searching for like a 20-minute video that might address your specific problem.
Which rarely helps.
Yeah, right. You scroll through forums, you get 3 different pieces of conflicting advice from internet commenters, and your confidence just evaporates. Every single time you pause to figure out what comes next, you drain your mental energy.
Which is why professional contractors rely on blueprints specifically to act as an external brain.
An external brain. I like
Okay.
that.
The blueprint absorbs all of that cognitive load. It exists to permanently eliminate the question of what comes next by prescribing a rigid, stress-reducing sequence.
The sequence is the cure. So according to the text, what is the exact workflow a quality plan should dictate?
It moves logically from the ground up, refusing to let you skip ahead. You start entirely focused on the foundation layout.
Makes sense.
Only when that foundation is perfectly level and square do you shift your focus to the floor framing.
Okay.
Once the floor is locked in, you move to wall assembly. You construct the walls flat on the floor, raise them, and secure them.
Right. Much easier than building them upright.
Exactly. That is followed by the roof construction, which seals the structure from the weather. Then comes door and window placement, and finally the exterior finishing details like trim and paint.
It takes this massive, intimidating, 3-dimensional puzzle and breaks it down into isolated, executable tasks.
Yes.
When you wake up on Saturday, you aren't carrying the mental weight of building a shed. You are simply executing the task of framing the back wall today.
It completely removes decision fatigue. Instead of constantly evaluating a dozen different options and worrying about future steps, you just follow the map.
I hear you on the sequence, and I see how it reduces cognitive load in theory, but I have to challenge the practicality of this for a second.
Okay, challenge away.
The idea of one magical blueprint sequence assumes a standardized world which just doesn't exist.
Fair point.
My backyard is a tiny, perfectly flat lot in a dense suburb where I just need a 6x8 tool shed that matches my house. But someone listening right now might live on a steep, rocky hill in a rural area and needs a massive barn-style workshop with double doors to pull a tractor in.
Right. Totally different needs.
If I have zero woodworking experience, giving me a generic blueprint seems like a recipe for disaster. How does looking at a complex architectural diagram actually reduce my decision fatigue if I have to spend hours modifying it for my yard?
That is a highly critical distinction to make, and it's the exact reason why relying on a single paper blueprint you bought at a hardware store is an outdated approach.
Okay.
A static paper plan forces you to adapt your reality to the drawing. The source material emphasizes that the digital landscape has completely inverted this model.
How so?
Well, it highlights a massive digital database called Ryan's Woodshed Plans. And the utility here isn't just about having a drawing, it's about eliminating the need for compromise.
Now, the text mentions this database houses over 12,000 different shed designs. At first glance, offering someone who is already overwhelmed 12,000 options sounds like the ultimate form of choice paralysis.
It sounds like it until you understand how that volume functions as a filtering tool.
A filter.
Yeah, the goal isn't to casually browse 12,000 plans. The massive volume exists so that you can filter down to the one highly specific design that perfectly matches your exact environmental and legal constraints.
Before you buy a single board.
Exactly.
Hmm.
You have to account for localized variables that a generic plan ignores.
Right, like local building codes are notoriously strict.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
if you live in a hurricane zone, your local zoning laws might require specific hurricane straps and foundation anchors that aren't necessary in, a calm inland valley.
Exactly. Or consider extreme weather conditions like snow. If you live in a northern climate that gets 3 feet of snow, you cannot build a shed with a flat or low-pitch roof.
Because the sheer weight of that snow load will just
Yeah.
collapse the structure.
Right. You need a steep-pitched roof designed to shed snow. You also have to account for drainage and soil type. Do you need a concrete slab because the ground is soft? Or can you build on wooden skids set on gravel?
So having 12,000 options means you don't have to take a generic design and try to mathematically alter the roof pitch yourself to accommodate your snow load.
Exactly. The exact mathematical model for your specific reality already exists.
Let's talk about the format of these plans because the text makes a point to emphasize that they include 3D CAD drawings.
Which is huge.
But if I'm a beginner who barely passed high school geometry, isn't a computer-aided design drawing going to look like absolute alien hieroglyphics to me?
It's actually the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah, traditional 2D paper blueprints are often what intimidates beginners because they require you to do complex spatial translation in your head.
You're looking at a flat line on a page.
Right, and you have to imagine how 3 different pieces of lumber intersect in the real world. A 3D CAD drawing removes that mental gymnastics.
How does it do that?
It allows you to visually rotate the structure. You can see exactly how the notch in a roof rafter physically sits on top of the wall plate.
Oh, that's amazing.
It visually answers the question rather than making you calculate it.
And that visual clarity ties right back into the financial safety net we discussed earlier.
It does.
Because these plans come with exact, pre-calculated materials lists and complete cutting dimensions.
Right down to the last screw.
It tells you exactly how many 2x4s to buy and exactly what angle to set your saw to for every single cut. It takes the chemistry of baking the cake and gives you the exact gram measurements for the ingredients.
Which means you purchase the exact correct amount of material, you make the cut confidently the first time, and you completely bypass the frustration and expense of the walk of shame.
I love that.
Furthermore, the guide emphasizes that resources like this are structured specifically for individuals with zero prior woodworking experience.
So it's accessible.
Exactly. They strip out the assumed knowledge that often plagues professional architectural plans.
It bridges the gap between the professional standard and the amateur's capability.
However, we have to look at this objectively.
Okay, what's the catch?
Well, while a comprehensive digital library is a powerful tool that prevents you from relying on incomplete, dangerous advice from internet comment sections, it does not absolve the builder of their baseline responsibilities.
Meaning a plan can't check your local zoning laws for you.
Precisely. You cannot abdicate your due diligence. A detailed blueprint provides the how, but you are entirely responsible for verifying the where and the what.
You must take the time to cross-reference the design you select with your specific property lines, your homeowner association rules, and your municipal building codes.
It's critical.
You have to ensure that building a 12-foot tall structure 3 feet from your neighbor's fence is actually legal in your specific zip code before you start digging footing.
Because no matter how perfect your 3D CAD drawing is, if the city inspector drives by and sees you violating a setback ordinance,
They are going to make you tear the whole beautifully sequenced structure down.
Exactly. The blueprint is your map, but you still have to ensure you have the legal right to navigate the territory.
So true. If you are standing in your backyard right now looking at an empty patch of grass or a mud pit where a shed is supposed to be, the overarching takeaway from this deep dive shouldn't be that you lack the raw carpentry talent to pull this off.
Not at all.
The failure of a DIY project is rarely a failure of physical skill. It is a failure of foresight.
That's the core message.
Building a structure that actually lasts is about exact geometric measurements. It's about enforcing a rigid step-by-step sequence that protects your cognitive load.
And it's about utilizing highly specific, comprehensive digital resources to filter out the guesswork before you even pick up a saw.
When you eliminate the uncertainty from the process, you eliminate the mental overwhelm that stalls out so many projects.
The transition from a chaotic, expensive disaster to a manageable, predictable project, it all happens in the planning phase.
Yeah.
And I think there's a broader principle here worth considering, actually.
Wow. What's
We've spent this time analyzing how front-loading your decisions, mapping out a literal blueprint, and removing micro-decisions can take a highly complex physical construction project and turn it into a calm, stress-free sequence of executable steps.
It takes the chaos of a dozen variables and forces them into a straight line.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, if you step back and apply this exact same aggressive blueprint mentality to the most overwhelming professional or personal projects in your life right now.
Wow, yeah.
If you forced yourself to map the entire sequence and calculate the hidden costs before you took the first step, how much friction, anxiety, and wasted energy could you instantly eliminate from your daily life?
Figuring out the geometry of the problem before you make the first cut, that is a powerful framework to take into the weekend. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. See you next time.